Hey everyone, Peter here with another imaging tutorial video. Today I want to talk about using the A1R1's LED light source, which is separate from the usual laser source that's used for confocal imaging. I also want to talk a bit about using the Brightfield Illumination, that's just a lamp, since there are some idiosyncrasies in using it that I know that some users have had questions about in the past. So first off, let's begin by talking about the LED light source. You can actually find the LED light source. It's on the right side of the microscope. I'll put a picture of what that looks like. And if it wasn't clear, the LED light source uses light emitting diodes for illumination, and filter cubes are required to filter the light from the LED light source so that you can match that to the fluorophore you're trying to see. So if you're trying to see GFP, you would want to turn on the light source, of course, but then you'd also want to put in place a filter cube that's specific for GFP. Perhaps most importantly, though, the LED light source can be used for viewing fluorescence with the eyepieces. So this is particularly advantageous if you're trying to get your sample into focus and you don't want to have to switch to the confocal mode where you have to use lasers in that case. It's also helpful if you want to quickly determine where your fluorophore is being expressed in your sample, which again, that's much easier to do, I think, with the eyepieces than turning everything on the computer side. You will not be able to use the live mode in conjunction with the LED light source in the software, I mean. If you use the LED light source, you'll need to use the eyepieces for that. So I'll show you what all this means inside of Elements. So to begin with, let's go ahead and right-click. We're going to go to Acquisition Controls. And all of the controls, at least software related to the LED light source, are housed in this tie pad option. So I'm going to open that up. Under filters, you can select any number of different colored filters that are already present in there. There's a blue one that's really for DAPI, but it's basically for any ultraviolet excitation emission wavelengths that match up somewhat with DAPI. Same with GFP, and we have a TRITC, and finally we have Sci5 or just a red filter cube. What I'm going to do to start off with is I'm just going to look at green fluorescence in the sample that I have mounted on the stage. So if I want to look at this sample, the fluorescence, I need to, as I said, select a filter cube and then also turn on my LED light source. Now, you'll notice, or maybe you'll notice now, that there isn't actually a button for turning on the LED light source in the software. And that's because in order to turn on the LED light source, you have to actually turn on a physical button, and you'll need to press down on this black circular dial to actually turn on and engage the light source. Basically, I'll need to select the filter cube that I want, and then I'll press down on the black button, and what you'll see is some rays come out from this horizontal line that's on the little LED screen on this LED light source controller. And that will indicate to you that the light source is on. But an even better indication, of course, is that when you look on the stage, you'll see that there is light coming from the objective that's corresponding to the fluorophore you're trying to excite. So in the case of GFP, I have some light coming out of the objective now that I've actually turned on the LED light source. And so from there, you can, I wouldn't keep the light source on at all times, but I would use it sparingly to just glance into the eyepieces and then get your sample in focus using that way. And as I said, it's also a very useful mechanic to quickly glance around your sample and look and make sure that your sample is actually expressing the fluorophore that you're interested in looking at. So that's using the LED light source. What if you are not interested in looking at fluorescence and instead you're interested in looking at the Brightfield illumination? As I mentioned before, there's a little bit of idiosyncrasies when using the A1R's Brightfield illumination. Most basic setup is you'll want to turn your filter cube so that there's nothing there to filter light. So you can either choose this one or you can choose this one. They're both empty. And then the buttons for using the lamps are right here, or using the lamp is right here. There's this option for DIA, that just means diascopic, which just means that the lamp light source is on the opposite side than the objective for the sample. So we have diascopic illumination that comes in the form of a lamp that's above our sample. And right now it'll potentially be set so it's like this. You can press this first. And this turns on the remote control on-off option. This does not turn on the lamp. It just turns on the ability to turn off and on the lamp in the software. This is turned on. Now I also need to turn this on. And hopefully what you'll see when you look over at the sample is the lamp light bathing your sample now. Now that's the most basic setup for just looking at the Brightfield lamp. And again, this is just for looking in the eyepieces, generally for either glancing around your sample or getting it into focus. I'm going to turn this off and show you what happens when a couple of options are maybe already in place when you set up your experiment. And with these options in place, it'll make it impossible for you to look at the Brightfield lamp. The biggest scenario is typically if your transmitted detector in place. So let me open up the A1 Plus Compact GUI. And occasionally under settings, this is what this button right here is, the optical settings. Occasionally you might be working in a situation where you want to use this transmitted detector. And it may be in place so that light is being transmitted into this detector itself. So you can take it out or in using these buttons, but what's critical here is that if the transmitted detector is in, you will not be able to use the light source. So by doing this, you'll see, hopefully on the stage when you turn it on, that there is no light present on the stage. Even though this says it's on, the Brightfield lamp will not turn on. And that's because the software, and indeed the microscope itself, has a built-in mechanism where it will not allow you to turn on the lamp when the transmitted detector is on, presumably to save the transmitted detector from being overwhelmed with photons. So in order to use the Brightfield lamp, you cannot have the transmitted detector in alignment in your optical pathway. So to make it work, you'll have to press out here. So now it's not in there. Hit OK. And then you should be able to hit this again. And the light turns on. And indeed, when I did that, the light came back on. And now I have Brightfield Illumination as an option again. Also, occasionally, you may have this automatically on when you walk in the morning to start your experiment. And by pressing this button, even though the transmitted detector is not present, you still may not see the lamp. And the reason for this is probably just because the software hasn't been refreshed recently. So to fix this issue, I just recommend first turning off the lamp and then turning off your remote control option and then turning it back on and doing this. Basically just refreshing this button so that Elements remembers what state it was in or can now recall what state the actual module was in. So that should hopefully fix that as well. So I think with that, I've kind of explained the basics of using the LED light source, which is separate, like I said, from the laser light source, where the laser is used for confocal imaging. The LED light source is used for looking at fluorescence with your eyepieces. So I've shown how to use that. And also I've mentioned use of the Diascopic or Brightfield illumination method, and that's right here. Critical things there are that you don't want your transmitted detector to be in place. You want your filter cube to be set to an empty position where there's no filtering of light. You want to turn on your remote control, and then you want to turn on the actual lamp on and off. And then you want to select whatever brightness or intensity level you want for your lamp. That'll just be you imaging. So I'll stop here for this video, but please make sure to check out some of my other tutorial videos, like selecting your best imaging setting, or making a Z-series, or using optical configurations. If you have any questions or comments, please send me an email at opticalcore@biochem.wisc.edu. Thanks for watching.